Sometimes the cruelest cuts come wrapped in politeness. Like the handwritten note I received from my mother-in-law, Patricia Wellington, on expensive cream stationery, explaining why I wasn't welcome at her 40th wedding anniversary celebration. Dearest Olivia, while we'll always consider you family, we feel that given your current situation, it would be best if you didn't attend. We must consider the family's image, and a divorced single mother might make some of our guests uncomfortable. I'm sure you understand. I'm Olivia Wellington, 34, widow, not divorcee, despite what Patricia tells everyone. Mother to 5-year-old Sophie, and apparently now a threat to the Wellington family's pristine reputation. My late husband Andrew had been the eldest Wellington son, heir to their real estate development empire and their proudest achievement, until he married me, the daughter of a high school teacher and a librarian. We'd met at NYU, where I was studying architecture, and he was finishing his MBA. Our love story wasn't supposed to happen according to Patricia and Richard Wellington's carefully plotted life plan for their son. But you're the first person who sees me, not my trust fund, Andrew had said when he proposed. We married despite his parents' thinly veiled disapproval, and for 5 wonderful years, we built our own life. Andrew joined his father's company but insisted on working his way up rather than taking an executive position. I established my own architectural firm, specializing in sustainable urban development. Then came the accident, a rainy night, a drunk driver, and suddenly I was a widow at 32 with a 3-year-old daughter. The Wellingtons swooped in immediately, taking control of the funeral arrangements, the estate matters, everything. I was too grief-stricken to fight them. Let us handle things, Patricia had said, her perfectly manicured hand patting mine. You focus on Sophie. Looking back, I should have paid more attention to what they were handling. But between my grief, running my firm, and raising Sophie alone, I trusted them to do what was right. After all, they were family. For the first year after Andrew's death, they maintained a careful facade of support. Sunday dinners at their Manhattan penthouse, holiday invitations, even offering to watch Sophie occasionally. But everything changed when I started dating again. It wasn't anything serious, just coffee with Mark Chen, a client who'd hired my firm to design his new restaurant. But Patricia acted like I committed high treason. Really, Olivia, she'd said during one of our weekly dinners, her voice dripping with disapproval. Dating already? What will people think? They'll think I'm a young widow trying to move forward, I'd replied, keeping my voice level for Sophie's sake as she played with her food nearby. Patricia's eyes narrowed. You have a responsibility to the Wellington name, and to Andrew's memory. The invitations stopped after that. Sophie still received birthday and Christmas gifts, but they were delivered by the family's housekeeper. I was gradually edited out of their lives, appearing in their carefully curated social media only when they needed to prove they were supporting their son's widow. Then came the anniversary party invitation, addressed only to Miss Sophie Wellington and Nanny, with that handwritten note explaining my exclusion. I might have accepted it, swallowed my pride for Sophie's sake, if it hadn't been for what I found that same evening. Sophie had been going through her daddy box, a collection of Andrew's things I put together to help her remember him. Among the photos and mementos was a USB drive I'd never seen before. Curious, I plugged it into my laptop after Sophie went to bed. Andrew's face filled the screen and my heart stopped. The video was dated 3 days before his accident. Hi baby, he began, his familiar smile making my eyes well up. If you're watching this, something's happened to me. I've discovered some things about the family business that, well, let's just say Dad and Mom aren't the upstanding citizens they pretend to be. I sat up straighter, my hands shaking as I turned up the volume. They've been using the company to run a massive tax evasion scheme. Shell companies, fake charitable foundations, the works. I've gathered all the evidence and stored it securely. The password is Olivia Sophie Forever. See, those expensive coding classes you made me take weren't wasted. He leaned closer to the camera, his expression serious. I'm meeting with them tomorrow to give them a chance to come clean. If they refuse, I'm going to the authorities. I know this will tear the family apart, but I have to do what's right. Sophie needs to grow up knowing her father stood for something. The video continued, detailing where he'd hidden the evidence and what he'd discovered. But it was his final words that broke me. And live if anything happens to me. Don't let them push you aside. You're stronger than they know. You're a Wellington not because you married me, but because you embody everything this family was supposed to stand for. Integrity, courage, and real class, not the fake kind mom parades around. I stayed up all night, following Andrew's instructions to access his hidden files. What I found was staggering. The Wellington real estate empire was built on fraud. They'd been evading taxes for decades, using charitable foundations as fronts for money laundering, and exploiting loopholes in real estate law to hide their activities. But there was more. Among the files was a copy of Richard Wellington's will, the real one, not the version their lawyers had shown me after Andrew's death. The difference was shocking. Andrew hadn't just been a beneficiary, he'd been named successor trustee of the family's main trust, with full control over the business empire. And according to both New York state law and the trust documents, that position now belonged to me as his widow and Sophie's guardian. The Wellingtons had hidden this from me, using my grief to manipulate me into signing documents I hadn't properly read. Documents that, I now realize, had been carefully worded to maintain their control while appearing to protect Sophie's interests. No wonder they wanted to distance themselves from me. An independent daughter-in-law with full trustee powers was the last thing they needed. I made 3 calls that morning, one to my old law school roommate who'd become a forensic accountant, one to Andrew's college friend who now worked for the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, and one to my own lawyer. "Maria," I said when my lawyer answered, "remember how you told me something felt off about those trust documents? Pull everything. We need to go through it all again." That afternoon, another engraved invitation arrived from Patricia, this one for a private family meeting before the anniversary party to discuss Sophie's future inheritance. The timing wasn't a coincidence. They needed my signature on some time-sensitive trust documents, according to the accompanying note. I RSVP'd immediately, my acceptance written on the same expensive stationery Patricia favored. "Dear Patricia, I'll be delighted to attend the family meeting. After all, we have so much to discuss about the future of the Wellington family legacy." What the Wellingtons didn't know was that their perfectly planned anniversary party was about to become a very different kind of family reunion. The Wellingtons' anniversary celebration was set to be the social event of the season. The Plaza Hotel's grandest ballroom had been transformed into a winter wonderland, with crystal chandeliers draped in silver and white orchids cascading from every surface. 200 of New York's elite would be gathering to celebrate Richard and Patricia's 40 years of perfect marriage. But first, there was the family meeting. I arrived early, dressed in one of Andrew's favorite outfits, a tailored black suit he'd said made me look like a corporate warrior queen. Sophie was with my parents for the weekend, safely away from what was about to unfold. The Wellingtons' private suite at the Plaza was already full when I arrived. Richard and Patricia held court from the center sofa, while their lawyer Howard Green arranged papers on the coffee table. Andrew's younger brother Michael and his wife stood by the window, trying to look disinterested but watching me carefully. "Olivia, dear," Patricia's smile was razor sharp. "How nice of you to come. Though I thought we'd been clear about the main celebration." "Oh, I wouldn't miss this for the world," I interrupted smoothly, setting my briefcase on the table next to Howard's papers. "After all, we have so much to discuss about the family trust." Richard leaned forward, his businessman's instincts sensing something amiss. "The documents are straightforward, Olivia. Just some routine updates to Sophie's trust provisions. Howard has highlighted where you need to sign." I opened my briefcase and pulled out my own stack of papers. "Actually, I have some documents of my own to share, starting with this, the real copy of Richard's will, the one that names Andrew as successor trustee of the Wellington Family Trust." The color drained from Patricia's perfectly made-up face. Richard's hand trembled slightly as he reached for his whiskey glass. Only Howard maintained his composure, though his eyes narrowed as he studied my face. "That's an old draft," he said smoothly. "It was superseded by the version you showed me after Andrew's death." I smiled, channeling Patricia's own sharp-edged expression. "The one you had me sign while I was still in shock, while you were also helpfully handling everything. Interesting timing, considering Andrew died just 3 days after confronting you about the tax fraud." The crystal tumbler slipped from Richard's hand, shattering on the marble floor. Michael stepped forward, his face dark with anger, but his wife caught his arm, something like recognition dawning in her eyes. "What exactly are you implying?" Patricia's voice had lost its society polish, taking on a dangerous edge. I pulled out my laptop and turned it to face them. "Why don't we let Andrew explain?" The video played in the silent room, Andrew's voice filling the space as he detailed his discoveries about the family's financial schemes. I watched their faces, Michael's growing horror, Patricia's carefully maintained mask cracking, Richard seeming to age years in minutes. When it finished, I stood. Here's what's going to happen. First, you're going to publicly acknowledge me as the rightful trustee of the Wellington Family Trust, as is my legal right as Andrew's widow and Sophie's guardian. Second, you're going to start the process of making full restitution for your tax fraud, including turning yourselves into the authorities. Or what? Richard had found his voice, though it shook. You'll destroy this family? Your daughter's inheritance? Sophie's real inheritance is her father's integrity, I said quietly, and I'm not the one who destroyed this family. You did that when you chose fraud over honesty, appearances over truth, and control over love. I can destroy you, Patricia hissed, rising from the sofa. One word from me and you'll never work in this city again. Who do you think will hire an architect who betrayed her husband's family? Actually, said a new voice from the doorway, I think her reputation is about to get even better. We all turned to see James Chen, my client, the restaurant owner I'd had coffee with, standing there. But he wasn't alone. 2 FBI agents flanked him, and behind them stood Howard's junior partner, holding more files. Agent James Chen, FBI Financial Crimes Unit, he said, showing his badge. Ms. Wellington has been working with us to expose one of the largest real estate fraud schemes we've seen. Your anniversary party is about to have some unexpected guests. What followed was choreographed chaos. As the FBI agents read Richard and Patricia their rights, guests began arriving for the pre-party reception. The ballroom below filled with New York's finest, unaware of the drama unfolding upstairs. Patricia made one last attempt to maintain control. We have 200 guests downstairs, she said as an agent prepared to handcuff her. Important people. You can't do this now. Actually, I cut in. I think your guests deserve to know exactly who and what they've been celebrating. The scene in the ballroom would have been comedic if it weren't so tragic. Richard and Patricia Wellington, pillars of New York society, being led through their own anniversary party in handcuffs. Their carefully curated image crumbling as FBI agents explained the charges to shocked party guests. But something unexpected happened too. As the truth emerged, others began to speak up. Other developers who'd been pressured into participating in the Wellington schemes. Contractors who'd been forced to falsify invoices. Even Michael's wife revealed she'd suspected something was wrong but had been afraid to speak up. The aftermath reshaped more than just the Wellington family. The entire real estate development community underwent scrutiny. My architectural firm, known for its ethical practices, gained new respect and clients. The FBI's investigation expanded, uncovering similar schemes at other companies. 1 year later, I stood in the newly renovated Wellington building lobby. The first thing I'd done as trustee was rename the charitable foundation, establishing the Andrew Wellington Memorial Foundation for Ethics in Business. The second was to implement all the reforms Andrew had planned, turning the company into a model of sustainable ethical development. Michael and his wife became allies once they understood the full scope of his parents' actions. He now runs our commercial division with strict oversight and a commitment to transparency that would have made his brother proud. Sophie started first grade this fall. In her classroom's Family Heritage Project, she proudly displayed pictures of her father and wrote about how he stood up for what was right. My daddy was a hero, she told her class. And my mommy is too, because she made sure everybody knew the truth. Last week, I found another video file hidden in Andrew's old laptop. This one was different, just him playing with baby Sophie, teaching her to walk, both of them laughing. At the end, he turned to the camera. Remember, princess, real strength isn't in what you have, but in what you choose to do with it. Patricia and Richard are serving their sentences at minimum security facilities. Their perfect society life is over, but something better has emerged from its ashes. The Wellington name now stands for integrity rather than wealth, for truth rather than appearance. Yesterday, we hosted our own celebration in the same Plaza Ballroom, the inaugural fundraiser for the Foundation Scholarship Program, helping underprivileged students study business ethics and sustainable development. The guest list was different from Patricia's carefully curated society crowd. These were people who shared Andrew's vision of business as a force for good. As I watched Sophie charm the guests, looking so much like her father with her bright smile and kind eyes. I touched the locket I always wear, the one with Andrew's picture inside. "We did it, love," I whispered. "We protected your legacy. The real one." The Wellington anniversary party that ended in arrests has become something of a legend in New York society. But its true significance isn't in the scandal or the social upheaval it caused. It's in the reminder that real family values, honesty, integrity, courage, matter more than any carefully maintained image. And sometimes the best revenge isn't in destroying what others built, but in building something better from the ruins they left behind.